Huge cultural news on this most sacred liberal festival of National Coming Out Day. 64-year-old pop singer Madonna has come out as gay. Here she is on TikTok, says, "If I miss, I'm gay," and she throws her underwear and it misses. And then she kind of throws her hand in the air to say that she is gay. Incredible news that Madonna is finally accepting her true self, her most authentic identity as gay. We just didn't know all this time, but that's her true self. Incredibly. It is incredible because Madonna has famously dated lots and lots of men. Tony Ward, Sean Penn, Lenny Kravitz, Tupac, Dennis Rodman, Carlos Leon, David Blaine, Vanilla Ice, Guy Ritchie, A-Rod, Brahmin Zaibat, Timur Steffens, Ala Malik Williams. Those are just the first ones that pop up on Google, in the first result on Google, okay? She's been married twice, both times to men, obviously. And I don't mean to broadcast the lady's secrets, but they're not secrets. This has been her brand for over 40 years. If Madonna is a lesbian, this would appear to be a rather recent turn of events. But the LGBT activists tell us, or at least they used to tell us until very recently, that sexual orientation is something that you're born with, that it's completely unchangeable. That's why we have to ban the so-called conversion therapy. Until the last few years, when not only sexual orientation, but sex itself became something that changes constantly. And however it changes, whenever it changes, that is your true, authentic self until tomorrow, when it will probably change again. And then no one can ever bring up all the stuff that you said and did, the person that you were just yesterday. National Coming Out Day is the perfect holiday for a culture devoted to erasing its past, to denying its traditions, to maligning everything that happened before this very moment. A culture that insists upon questioning every ancient truth and bans you from questioning anything that happens to be in fashion among the ruling elite right now. National Coming Out Day is not the only sacred liberal feast that we're celebrating this week. I should have spoken more about this yesterday. I forgot. It's the most important liberal sacred holiday of October 12th, 2022. That, of course, would be Indigenous Peoples Day. Yes. No, it was October 10th. Today is the 11th National Coming Out Day. Tomorrow, I don't know, what's tomorrow going to be? Transgender Awareness Day. But yesterday was Indigenous Peoples Day, also known as Columbus Day. Columbus Day is a real holiday that we have celebrated off and on since 1891, 1892. But certainly since the 1930s, we've celebrated it very regularly until a bunch of liberals decided that they hate Christopher Columbus because he discovered America and he brought Christianity and Western civilization to the New World. And they've decided this is very, very bad, even as they sip their Starbucks lattes and type on their iPhones and enjoy all the privileges of being an American. They pretend that they would rather live under the Aztec Empire, having their hearts ripped out by maniacs on top of a pyramid. So that's what they tell us, and it's not just the fringe people telling us this. That's what Kamala Harris tells us. The vice president tweeted out yesterday, "On Indigenous Peoples Day, we pay respect to tribal nations and indigenous history. Today and every day, let us continue to celebrate and uplift the rich contributions of indigenous peoples. Their leadership has made our country stronger." Now, of course, this doesn't really make a whole lot of sense because we are told, on the one hand, the indigenous peoples are so important, they've made our country stronger, they're such an important part of our country. Also, we're really, really evil because we killed all the indigenous peoples. So which is it? Do they still exist and they make our country stronger? Did we kill all of them and that's why we're so bad? Who are the indigenous peoples that we're talking about? Because when I think about the arrival of Columbus, 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. He arrived, and it's true that this experience of colonialism had some problems with it. There's no question about that. Although it's worth correcting the historical record. Most of the things that people accuse Christopher Columbus of having done, he just didn't do. It was other people, it was other Spaniards. In fact, Christopher Columbus very often was taking the side of the Native Americans against some of the more aggressive and violent of the Spanish conquistadors and explorers, the original crew, not the later crews, but the original crew that came with Columbus. And actually, a lot of the crimes that he was accused of, he was accused of them by Francisco de Bobadilla, who was his political rival and who took over his spot as governor of the West Indies. So, yes, it's true that there is essentially one document that says that Columbus did all these terrible things, but it was written by his chief political rival. That would be like trusting an account of Donald Trump's life written by Joe Biden. That just wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. And in fact, he was the victim of a whole lot of calumny. But forget about that. Let's say that Columbus did every single thing that they said that he did. All of the crimes that Columbus is accused of in his entire life do not equal the horrors and crimes of one 4-day period in 1487 at the consecration of Tenochtitlan, when the Aztecs ritualistically slaughtered an estimated 84,000 people, young people, women, ripped their still beating hearts out of their chests and kicked their bodies down the side of the temple. This 4-day period. And it wasn't just the Aztecs. Yes, the Aztecs were particularly nasty. And yes, when the Aztec Empire was overthrown, the conquered peoples who were frequently sacrificed by the Aztecs celebrated. Of course they would have. But it wasn't just them. It was the Carib Islanders. The Carib Islanders who gave us the word cannibal. The word cannibal in our language comes from the Caribs because they were cannibals and they did all sorts of crazy things. And when Christopher Columbus arrived in the New World, he met this nice group of Indians called the Taínos, and some of them had marks on their bodies. The marks were from the Caribs, who were complete savages. And it wasn't just the Caribs, by the way. Going all the way up into North America, all the way up into upstate New York, the Iroquois practiced cannibalism. So many of the Native American tribes practiced cannibalism. Christopher Columbus, for all his sins, the man never ate people, okay? And so why do we celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day? If you're comparing Christopher Columbus and the indigenous peoples, qua the indigenous peoples, them as a people, Columbus was a zillion times better than they were. They did crazy stuff. They worshiped demons and slaughtered one another constantly and then ate their bodies. The Carib Islanders raised babies to eat. Human babies, and they consider that a particularly toothsome morsel, according to the biography by Samuel Eliot Morison, who's one of the most respected historians in America, in American history. So no, there's no comparison here. I hate to put too fine a point on it, but Tony Soprano got this exactly right.
His history teacher, Mr. Cushman, is teaching your son that if Columbus was alive today, he would go on trial for crimes against humanity like Milosevic in, Europe.
Your teacher said that.
It's not just my teacher, it's the truth. It's in my history book.
So you finally read a book and it's bullshit.
Tony.
Look, you had to walk in Columbus's shoes to see what he went through. People thought the world was flat, for crying out loud. Then he lands on an island with a bunch of naked savages on it. I mean, that took a lot of guts. You remember when we went to Florida, the heat, and those bugs?
Well, like it took guts to murder people and put them in chains.
He was a victim of his time.
Who cares? It's what he did.
He discovered America is what he did. He was a brave Italian explorer. And in this house, Christopher Columbus is a hero. End of story.
End of story, absolutely true. But that's not the end of the story for the liberals now. Robert Reich, who is that sort of diminutive fellow who worked in the Clinton administration, he goes on cable news sometimes, very left-wing. He said, get Columbus Day out of your vocabulary. Today is now Indigenous Peoples Day. And why? Who cares? It's just a holiday, right? Who cares? The libs care. The libs care a lot. They focus a lot of time and energy and money on getting us all to hate Christopher Columbus and take down his statues and to celebrate the indigenous peoples. We're going to have Aztec Tenochtitlan Day or something. Why? Because it is a sign of cultural conquest and political conquest. Because it is because human beings need holidays and liturgy. Human beings need order to their lives. What we celebrate, what we worship defines our culture. And previously, we were a confident culture. We celebrated the man who brought Christianity to the New World, the man who brought European civilization to the New World, the man who gave us our traditional country, who started the chain of events that led to our traditional country. The libs hate all of that, and they've finally amassed enough political power that they seem pretty able to blot it out. You Google, what day is it on October 10th? This year. You Google it, it's going to say Indigenous Peoples Day. You talk to the Democrat Party, they're going to say Indigenous Peoples Day. You talk to your teachers, they're going to say Indigenous Peoples Day. They have conquered that holiday. It's a sign of a conquest, not of the Native Americans, not of the New World. It's a conquest of you and your country. The rest of the show is continuing now. You do not want to miss it. Okay, I'm bringing on the man that I'm playing in fantasy football this week. That would be Jake Crane of Crane & Company. I made the huge mistake of allowing my producer Ben Davies to choose my fantasy football team, which is why I think I'm in dead last right now. So for some reason, I'm still making another bet on whether I'll win this week. I'm assuming I'll probably lose this one. Last time I lost, I had to electrocute myself on camera. Who knows what we'll do this time? Be sure to head on over there. The member block begins right now.